9:16. So I will make it up by speaking quickly on a few of the shorter cases, and we'll get everybody out of here as quick as possible. So going to be pinch hitting today, so glad to be here and welcome everybody to the Planning Commission. I'm going to ask Mr. Brooks, is going to be leading us in prayer.
Lord, thank you for recent rains and all you have given us. We have ideas, visions, and hints. However, you see in perfect detail the end of everything. Our prayer today is that your will be done. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States,
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, I've already established quorum is present. Like to consider approving the minutes from the June 17th meeting. Jeff, there were some corrections that were made, right?
Correct.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes? I'm sorry? Oh, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from June 17th.
So move.
I have a motion, and I have a second. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Move on to the consent agenda. The commission may request for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for presentation and public comment. Otherwise, the consent agenda will be considered in one vote. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on to the regular agenda, subdivision plats. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to the City Council.
Good
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. The first item on your agenda is the preliminary plat for Old Stone Ranch. It will be followed by Section 1 final plat for the preliminary plat, assuming that you approve that preliminary plat. Old Stone Ranch is a piece of property that is 25.361 acres. The final that is following is 14.880 acres. The final plat will have 16 half-acre residential and lots in a future commercial development. The overall total for the preliminary plat is 33 residential lots. And I will call your attention to the fact that these are half-acre lots. So they are in need of water, but they will be on septic system. Most of the property, and you can see from about this line, is outside the city limits. And so they are wanting to hook onto city water, and in order to do that, they will have to annex into the city, and they are aware of that. This indicates the location of the property. This is Foster Road, and it is West Loop 306. So you can see here again, there's the city limits line, and most of it is outside the city. This is the final plat, and it has the 16 lots and then the 2 lots that are right next to the loop, which will be ultimately commercial lots. In looking at the rationale for approval, The final plat configuration is identical to the preliminary plat for the same area, and so we are going to be recommending that you approve the final plat if you approve the preliminary plat. It is in conformity with the comprehensive plat. The commercial area along the Loop 306 is transitional, and that includes commercial, transitioning from that to residential. And as I indicated, neighborhood residential will be following. And it is in conformance with the present development that has occurred both on the west and east side. Staff recommends that you approve the preliminary plat for Old Stone Ranch, and you approve the final plat of Old Stone Ranch, Section 1, and it will be subject to 8 conditions of approval. And there are 3 notes that are on the preliminary plat, just to let you know that the water line extension will be required, which will necessitate annexation into the city, and that water service will have to be looped in the future. And there will be a land development agreement that will be entered into that will address that in the final plat. As we've indicated before, if you do not approve the preliminary plat, we cannot consider the final plat. And the third note is prior to the building permit, the fire hydrants and fire department access will be needed to the site. These are the conditions of the final plat, copy of the tax certification. A drainage study is being required on that entire site. Plans and construction of Old Stone Drive will be required. There will also be TxDOT approval for the Loop 306 frontage road and Old Stone Drive intersection. Tom Green County Environmental Health will have to approve the septic systems, and that will be dependent upon annexation because they want city water. And they will have to install the water main and service connections. The water line, as I indicated, will have to be looped, and there is a developer's agreement that will be setting the terms for that, and fire hydrants will be required. Are there any questions?
I don't think so. Thank you. Do I have any public comment on this case? Close public comment on that. Gentlemen, do y'all have any questions before we? All right. There are no questions. I will entertain a motion.
I make the motion to,
Oh, did you lump A and B?
There are 2 actions, yes.
You lumped them, correct?
I kind of lumped them.
Okay, because I saw section 1.
Separate
Okay.
actions, right.
Okay, so let's take a motion on 2 separate motions, A and B, correct? Okay. So I'll entertain a motion on the first item A, the preliminary plat for Old Stone Ranch.
I make the motion to approve item A.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Approved. So she's already presented B. I'll entertain a motion for B, the Old Stone Ranch, Section 1.
I make the motion to approve section B.
Hold on 1 second, guys. Joe, will you read caption B, open that for public comment as well, just to make sure everybody understood that that was for both?
That they were both lumped?
Yes,
Sure.
sir, correct.
Sure. So item B is Old Stone Ranch, Section 1, public hearing and consideration of a request for approval of a final plat of Old Stone Ranch, Section 1, being 20.432 acres out of that certain 76.69 acre tract described and recorded in volume 988, page 72. Tom Green County, Texas, generally located southwest Loop 306 frontage road and west of Foster Road. So that was item A and item B were both looped in the presentation. Is there any public comment that wants to speak? Anyone want to speak on specifically for item B? All right, gentlemen, do you all have any questions specifically on item B? No? With no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Make the motion to approve item B, Old Stone Ranch, Section 1, as proposed.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Brooks, and I have, who came in first? I have a second on the table as well. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Moving on to C, a replat of tracks 12 and 13, Bridlewood Estates, Section 1. Public hearing and consideration of a request for approval of replat of tracks 12 and 13, Bridlewood Estates. Section 1 being 4 acres of land comprised of all tracks 12 and 13. Section 1, Bridlewood Estates, Tom Green County, Texas, generally located at the southwest corner of Fairview Road and Bridle Court. Good morning.
Shelley Pascal, City Planner. This is the proposed replat of tracks 12 and 13. They are currently 4 acres. It's at the southeast corner of Fairview and Bridlewood. It is actually outside the city limits. Here's your city limit sign, or limits. And the future land use is rural. I just wanted to show what was approved in 2017. As you can see, they're each 2 acres, and now it's being broken down into 7 different tracts. Here's the proposed replat for this section. As you can see, each of them are at least ½ acre in size. This is Bridlewood Court looking south on the one picture, and the other is the rear of the site. This is Fairview Road looking west. The comprehensive plan does designate this area to be rural, and they are each ½ acre in size, and they will both have direct access to Fairview and Bridlewood. Staff, we do recommend approval of this, subject to one condition, and that condition being the tax cert. There is a note. It's not an actual condition, but there is a note on this plat regarding an agreement between the wildfire chief and the San Angelo Fire Marshal regarding a water tank in the area for fire. Any questions?
Do y'all have any questions? Thank you. Do I have any public comment on this case? Is there any public comment? Y'all, pretty straightforward. Do y'all have any questions or any comments? No. Good. All right, then I will entertain a motion on this.
Move to approve as presented.
Have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Moving on, item D, first replat in Block 10, Lakeview Edition. Public hearing and consideration of a request for approval of a first replat in Block 10, Lakeview Edition, being lots 8, 9, and 10, an adjacent 50-foot wide strip and a 15-foot wide adjacent abandoned alley, and 2 variances from Chapter 10.3A2 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a minimum paving width of 23 feet and no curb and gutter for Oak Lawn Street, an urban local street, and to maintain a paving width of 23 feet and no curb and gutter for East 48th, urban local, comprising of 0.74 acres of land generally located at the northeast corner of Oak Lawn and 48th. Mr. Fisher.
Morning, Commissioners. Jeff Fisher, Principal Planner. Our next case today is a first replat in Block 10 of the Lakeview Edition. It's on 0.74 acres at Oak Lawn and East 48th. The zoning is RS1. Future land use is neighborhood. District 2, Tom Thompson in the Lakeview neighborhood. So the current plat configuration, if you can see this, are 3 lots going east-west. The plan for the applicant is to include this abandoned alley to the east of it and essentially plat 4 lots going north-south. So this is the proposed plat. The applicant is requesting 3 variances from the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance along with this plat to allow the existing paving width of 48th Street and of Oaklawn to remain at 23 feet, which is deficient. For a local road in San Angelo, as you know, it's got to be 40 feet or 36 feet with a 4-foot sidewalk. So those are the first two variances for those two streets. The third variance is from Chapter 9.5 for the city not to require a sidewalk along 48th Street or really on any of the streets. So that would be the third variance. Staff supports approval of the plat for conformity with the comprehensive plan. The RS1 zoning is consistent with neighborhood, which supports more housing in residential areas. And it's also a convenient location within walking distance of Lincoln Middle School. It also conforms with the intent of purpose statements. The reorientation of the lots will match the lots to the east, which also go north-south immediately adjacent. So that's policy C, orderly, safe, and efficient development. D, ensure safe vehicle and pedestrian circulation. And E, guiding future growth. The right-of-ways are more than sufficient at 60 feet as well, so for additional paving width in the future. Staff is not supporting the two variances for the street paving width. We believe that's deficient for a number of reasons. Our minimum standard for fire safety is 26 feet. That's in the subdivision ordinance, as well as the minimum construction standards for engineering require that they meet at least an urban or a rural standard. And a rural standard, even if it was in the ETJ, still has to be 30 feet. This is down to 23 feet. So y'all have approved variances before down to 36 or 34, maybe less. I don't have a memory of all of the variances ever in San Angelo. So the compromise position staff believes is appropriate is to go down to 30 feet. This is an infill development. We'll take the rural standard here, 30 feet with a header curb. So what that means is on their incremental halves, so they don't have to pave all 30 feet. It would be the developer to the south that would have to do half of that distance. So if there's 7 feet that's deficient, it would be really just 3.5. And if the header curb and engineering's here as well takes up a 1.5 feet, it's really 2 feet of paving plus the 1.5 feet of header curb, which we believe is reasonable. This is our reason to deny the variance. We mentioned the minimum engineering and fire standards. We don't believe there's any uniqueness here because there's a lot of infill projects, and any other infill project would also be responsible to maintain minimum paving standards. We don't believe there's a hardship. Is it an inconvenience? Yes, but we don't believe it goes as far as a hardship. There's ample room to build the additional paving width on both sides, given there's a 60-foot right-of-way and no topographical features that planning or engineering could find on our site visits. And finally, allowing the deficient streets would contravene those standards, possibly set a negative precedent, then everybody that wants an infill could do the same thing. So we're not asking for the full paving width, we're just asking for a part of it. 8 notifications were mailed, 1 in favor. That's the same owner that owns all of these 6 properties. So it's really just, we count it as 1, and 1 in opposition from this individual at 48th. I took some photos as well, just so you can see what the current standards are of an uncurbed street that's deficient, and then a full width street or almost full width street that isn't deficient and has curbs. So this is currently looking on East 48th Street, looking east. So the lots would be like this over here, and this is north on Oaklawn. So the lots would be over here. And as you can see, it's a very narrow street right now at 23. If you go down 47th Street, and most of the Lakeview addition, even though it was platted in 1908, it's really this last northeast corner that's left. Everything else, all the way down to about 27th Street, has already been paved. They may not be full 40 feet, they might be 36, but they all have curb and gutter. This is pretty much the last area that doesn't, and a few other of the side streets in the area. So this is 47th Street. About 2 blocks south, and you can see it's a little deficient, 36 feet, but it does have the curbs. So staff recommends approval of the first replat in Block 10 Lakeview Addition, denial of the partial variances from Chapter 10.3A2 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to allow minimum paving width of 30 feet. So I should say approval, a partial variance, 30 feet and header curb for Oaklawn and East 48th Street. And to set aside, meaning not require a variance from Chapter 9.5 for a sidewalk. We don't believe a sidewalk is appropriate in that area, just given there aren't any, and this is a minor infill project, so no need for a variance. We're not requiring one. Subject to the 5 conditions of approval. I'll read those in briefly. A copy of the tax certification, improve Oaklawn Street, submit a financial guarantee or seek a variance. Improve East 48th Street, submit a financial guarantee or seek a variance. Design and install water main and sewer connections or submit a financial guarantee. And install water and wastewater service lines to each lot. So this concludes staff's presentation. Essentially, you have several options. You can make them do 40 feet, 36 feet, or you can support staff at 30 feet, or you can give them a full variance. It's up to you all how you see that. That's the end of the presentation.
Okay, so, never mind. I answered my own question. To the relief of everyone, I'm not going to ask it. So the 30, let me wrap my head around the 36 and the 30. And just so everyone's clear, you could go for a 40, right? Which we've seen many, many times. And you could go for a 36, but y'all felt that it was in the best interest of both parties that we compromise with a 30. Is that correct?
Correct, and that would be the very minimum standard that would still meet at least a rule road, and you'd have a header curb, so that would, if for paving width and erosion over time, at least that header curb would keep that pavement in place.
That seems extremely generous and extremely fair, so is there any public comment on this case? I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm going to open it up right quick and see if anybody wants to speak about this. Good morning.
Mike Biggerstaff, and this is Chad Decker with New Home Constructors. A couple of issues, I guess first and foremost, is the measurements on the street width. We can't figure out where they've gotten their 23-foot measurement. We've measured all of the surrounding streets in this area, and the narrowest street area we found was 20.
Along 48, the most narrow point was 26 feet. We measured 9 points on 48 between Bowie and Travis.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
Can you speak into the mic, guys? I'm sorry.
We measured 9 points, 9 different locations in the street along 48th, between Bowie and Travis, which is 2 city blocks. Mm-hmm. And the area that we're talking about in particular measured anywhere from 26 to 27 to 28 feet wide. The next block, which doesn't include our area, so in other words, from Oaklawn down to Travis on 48th, measured 25 to 26 feet. It did have one place where it was 21 feet, but I do want to point out that the main reason that these streets have the width that they have is because of failure to maintain over the years. If you go back and scratch the weeds or the grass off the edge,
sure, there's pavement behind
there's
it.
pavement.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure.
They just haven't been maintained.
That's a good point. It's true.
And basically, our option is we can leave the lots as they are, as they're currently planted, and we don't have to do anything. We can build 7 homes there, leave the 3 turn to facing west that are on Oaklawn, face Oaklawn. But we're trying to revitalize that Lakeview area, as many of you know, and have had great success doing that. The majority of the streets in this area are in this exact condition. We've built a number of homes, 15 or 20 in that respective area, with the streets as they are. So what we would wind up with is one block with a widened street and a curb. One block within many, many blocks. Like I said, we can leave it as is. It's in our interest to do that. This is not a high return business building affordable housing in Lakeview. It's more of a revitalization and trying to help the north side of San Angelo. And in the best interest of what we're trying to do, the additional investment to widen that street and place that curb will prevent us from building homes, literally stop it, because we're having to extend water and sewer to those homes out of our pocket. The city doesn't have to place that water and that sewer. That's on us. Those taxpayers have paid their city taxes over there, and many of them don't have city water and sewer. So we're providing that. If they put the paving and the curb in the deal, it prevents us from moving forward.
So what you would like is a 26-foot street variance with no curbs.
Correct.
Okay.
But if you, and he is right, so if you, now Jeff, can you help us with these, could you help put some guidance on the difference in the measurements? Because when I was out there on Sunday looking at the streets, I mean, they do bring up a great point, and he is 100% accurate. There's a few feet of street if you were to peel back some of those weeds, and I get that argument, and it's a good one, but I'm also of the opinion that, look, it's got to start someplace, right? So there's, you know, sort of like the sidewalk argument, right? I mean, you've got to start it at some point in time, and the same thing goes with the streets. But that doesn't mean that it's the developer's job to start fixing our streets, and I get it. So can you shed some light on sort of where's the disconnect on the measurements that these fellows are coming up with versus the measurements that was presented?
Maybe a good question for our engineering department, which looks at street standards. They may want to comment on that.
Coming up. Go ahead, Mike.
One other comment I might make: we have photographs. What we're doing in these areas is we're revitalizing these blocks. We are actually providing off-street parking. We're going in and taking back off the front of the tracks 10 feet, curbing back to that point within the property and providing hardened surface off-street parking to get people, because I recognize that street parking on a 26-foot street creates an issue.
Yeah.
There's
Very narrow.
no doubt about it, and I understand that. So what we've done is we've gone in and curbed back 10 feet off of the pavement and allowed these people to have parking in front of their homes on a parking pad.
I can show you those.
Sure, yeah, let's see it. We'd love to see it. That wasn't,
And that's typical of what we do on
oh, I got you. Oh, okay, I've seen these. I got you.
And it sounds like with the 26-foot street variance and no curbs, it would be in conformity with the rest of the neighborhood.
That is correct.
Well, and not only that, I will say that there are some, I measured points north and south on Bowie, which is the street to the east of us, from 49th to 48th. Same thing down Oak Lawn, and the same thing across both 49th and 48th Streets. And in two instances, I got a width of 21 and 23 feet, but everything else was anywhere between 26, 28, 26, 27, 26, 29, 31, two spots of 25 on 48th between Oak Lawn and Travis.
You're talking about visible
pavement.
Visible pavement.
Yes, sir.
Yes. We wanted accurate measurements, and that's why we went out and spent the time to do this. Like I said, it won't stop us. We can still build 7 homes the way it's currently platted. But we look at it in the sense that if we can tidy things up, clean up an area, put those houses in a row, the city benefits from the additional tax revenue from an additional home on the block by replatting those 3 specific lots. But these lots, I mean, we've had a great response to what we're doing over there. If we are to get the variance and allowed to turn those 3, it'll give us 8 lots. Those 8 are sold. We have agreed on 39th Street with the city. They have asked us to widen 39th Street. We've got 20 tracks along.
Do you remember from what to what? 39th? You're widening it from
It goes from
what to what?
Crockett back around to 40th.
I think that where we're widening that over there is additional like 3 feet. 3
3 feet,
But-
plus
but-
curb.
But you're also looking at
curb.
18,
Which is a foot and a half.
18 to 20 lots.
It's a foot wide.
Foot.
But you're also looking at 18 contiguous lots over
20,
there.
20, isn't it?
Potentially
Well,
20.
potentially 20.
Somebody from engineer, do you want to, did you see those photos of how they do those parking areas in the front? You saw
I
that?
did. Mitchell Gallen from engineering, stepping in for Lance this morning. Really, what I can address the measurement discrepancy, kind of try to give a best explanation on that. What we usually measure is there might be on a road, especially in a road that has a very deteriorated edge. Sometimes it's pretty hard to establish where to measure to and from. So what we measure is we take a couple of points, and the smallest width that we see, that's kind of what we set that width at. Y'all vote on a minimum width, so that's just kind of, instead of saying the whole road's 26, we find the smallest point of that measurement.
Thank you. Do y'all want to, do y'all have any questions on this street? It's just, they're so,
I want to make it clear. So you would be happy with all variances if they were approved. Is that right? Meaning the width,
pull them back up.
the
who's back there?
26-foot
Groves is
street
back there?
variance and no curbs. Are sidewalks in the issue? Is there a sidewalk issue in this?
No.
No.
Okay.
You can dig
And-
through
And there's
these.
no sidewalks in the area, there's no curbs in the area.
And I'll agree. I'll agree with the city. I'll agree with the engineers. The best scenario we could possibly have if we had curbs and gutters on every street in San Angelo, right? No question about it.
Mr. Biggerstaff, I had a quick question for you. If you all, or your position is to approve the variances, would you still be in agreeance to a header curb as a minimum? I'm not saying that's our position. I'm just saying would you still be willing to put in the header curb if engineering would like that?
What would that header curb do, Jeff?
Mitchell answer that as well. Thank you.
So typically on a header curb, it's, I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with what a header curb is. It's kind of just a flat concrete curb that lays up against the edge of the pavement. Especially in this area, you see a lot of pavement deterioration, so that header curb is just going to protect that edge of pavement from people driving on it and the traffic.
You were going to say garbage trucks, weren't you?
It's not actually a curb that's set up, it's the flat.
Pretty much tapers into the asphalt.
Yeah, header
Now-
curbs are
Now, one thing I'll mention,
handy.
I think the problem I see with doing a header curb in this situation is because of the varying widths of the street, you're gonna have a header curb that goes down the street like this. To me, that's more of an eyesore than what we're doing by creating the off-street parking, tying right into the front yard landscaping.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if it would be prudent. I'll ask the question. Can engineering can you give us your professional opinion on that parking situation? And whether you can or can't, you can just say you can't. But
I don't believe I can.
I
I
didn't
think
think
it's great.
you
know,
miss
that-
100% of the shots you don't take. That's why I asked.
Right. No, I think it's great that they are providing that. But from an engineering standpoint, we'd like to see the pavement and the curb.
Because those aren't regulated, correct? What I'm saying is, with our streets, we have a minimum standard and things of that nature. So the parking structures that we see those pictures of, who regulates how those are built? What's the subsurface? I mean, does anybody look at those? I mean, I'm asking any of you.
Right, usually anything built in the right-of-way would be to
It's
the
on
city
their
standard.
property.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Got you. Thank you.
Well,
Thanks, guys. I'm going to ask for some more public comment. Do I have any more public comment on this case? Thank you, guys.
Just for clarity, any construction work in the right-of-way requires a permit from the city for that particular construction work.
Right.
And so they would be approving whatever was proposed or setting a different standard.
So you're saying the homeowner, you're saying the builder, they would get a permit to build that structure on that property? The parking
They would
structure?
have if they're in the right-of-way and they're making a parking area with a curb, then they're doing construction in the right-of-way, and that would require approval of engineering of whatever their plan is.
So
I
how-
can clarify or fix
Yeah, I
that
just wanna know how
issue.
it's in the
not
right-of-way if
in the
it's on public
right-of-way.
property.
It's in their property. It's in the house owner's property. It's
Right.
not in the right-of-way.
Okay, so zero oversight on how these are constructed, but it's for parking their own personal vehicles.
Except that the city does have standards for parking. For example, you can't park on your grass, and so there's a minimum standard for surfacing of a parking
Right.
space, but that appears to meet that. It doesn't have to be necessarily concrete or asphalt. There are other options, and it looks like their construction would meet that.
But anything would be better than the front yard, right?
Right, but there is a minimum standard for that.
No, I got you, okay. All right, so without any public comment, I'm going to open up for us to discuss. So guys,
what I'm
do
gonna,
y'all have any opinions on this? I mean, I'm of the opinion that I like the pictures that those guys showed us. I like that parking, and I know that before, once Jeff presented the case, it looked like it was a very good compromise, and that's why there's always two sides to each case. And so I like the rebuttal from those guys. I like the plan. I do like the fact that staff has done a tremendous job, working on this case, and it seems like that there was some give and take on both sides. So how do we come to a conclusion on this to try to make everyone happy?
I think that staff's concerns are really not our problem. Our problem is if we want to approve the variances, all variances or not. And that's where I'm going.
Yeah, no, I would agree with most of that. I think we don't work for staff, right? We work with staff. We all work for the customer, which is sitting out there, and the customer is what's important. However, we are tasked with a very difficult one at that you have to try to make the customer as happy as possible, and we also have to ensure that the decisions that we make are the best for the city moving forward and not for one particular case. But you are right. I just want to make sure that the decisions we make are for the future, right? We never make them for today. So if this thing looks great today, what does this thing look like moving forward 20 years from now? Are the things that we potentially allow going to be maintained, or are they going to look this good down the road? At the same time as trying to make this as easy on the customers as possible.
Well, I'd like to make the motion if it's okay.
I will entertain one if, Joe, you were about to say something. Do you have something you want to add to that?
No, y'all kind of hit it on the head, what I was thinking. I mean, I'm familiar with that area. You have areas that are nice curved and you have areas that aren't. And
It was a hodgepodge when I looked at it.
if we were doing the whole street, I would say, yeah, let's put the curb in, let's make it the way it needs to be, but what's the plan for the next block or that next area? You know, if we're building houses there, maybe we should finish that block, but that's not in this.
And you're right, and so if you look at, sorry, I don't know if anybody can hear me, if anybody wants to. If you look at this particular case, and you look down the street, you're not going to have this case again, right? It's sort of the way that community has been built up, and over the years, it's been a mixed match, right? So you have a few empty lots that could potentially have something done, and then you don't have anything for blocks, right? And so that's what makes these difficult. Whereas new construction, it's easy to go, look, we're starting out with a completely brand-new, land that is untouched, and we want everything to conform because we want this thing to move on down the road for 50 years, and that's the way we're going. But when you get into communities like this, where they've been piecemealed for years, I'm of the opinion that a developer shouldn't pay the price for the way that a neighborhood has come together. And so I think the give and take that's going on with the city is exactly what should be going on. So, that's my opinion.
I think really fast, one of the concerns I think we had in planning and engineering had both talked about this before the meeting, is that area immediately to the east. This whole subdivision was platted back in 1908. So obviously there were some cases, in particular this last northeast portion, that were not only were the city standards may not have been required back then, but the roads were never actually put in. At some point, we believe this area here will be built because these lots were platted, and at some point they're going to extend streets in here. So I think our concern was, yes, it's true, and the developer makes a very good point. And this was sort of a compromised position. These areas in here were underdeveloped streets with existing lots, but at some point these are going to develop. And I think the question was, what standard would we apply here? And we had talked about it internally, and our decision would basically be at least a minimum construction standard that the city would want. So maybe we couldn't enforce 40 feet here, maybe we could enforce the 30 with a header curb. And so if we leave this area here, it's possible that all these areas at some point in the future. Now that's the argument. Will they develop? When will they develop? And so we didn't want to leave this point, but I do understand obviously the developer's concern too, that it's just a small portion. Our concern was that then this would be underdeveloped, this would be underdeveloped, and it would continue. So that's it.
Thank you, Jeff. I guess I'll reopen. Can I reopen public comment? I'm going to reopen public comment.
Erica Carter with Carter Fentress Engineering. I just want to point out, yes, here and here, or here, will develop in the future, and those should be held to the standards that they are today. But what is going to help when you have everything going back this way, not the current conditions? You're going to have one little piece right here. This isn't going to do, they're not going to have the incremental half on the bottom because those are mostly developed. So why not start fresh there when you start development that way?
Again, one thing also I wanted to mention is that all of this area in this vicinity, we've actually looked at developing it. And according to the appraisal district and property owners and so forth and so on, there's from Bowie all the way over to Crockett, and from 48th north to Lakeview Heroes, there are like 38 different property owners. And so we've pretty much given up on that area. Not that it won't be developed in the future. I'm sure at some point that it will. The lots that face Lakeview Heroes will probably never be developed, because when Lakeview Heroes Drive was put in, it was raised up so high that most of those lots are about 6 to 8 feet below the surface of the road. So I mean, definitely there's a possibility. But my point is, for one person to try, no one is going to go in there and develop those lots unless they can purchase all of those lots. It's not cost effective. Water, sewer,
you're dealing with
streets.
38 different folks that own the lots.
And the chances of getting to 38 different folks to approve the sale of their property all at one time is slim to none, I would say.
Jeff? All right. I'm going to close public comment again. Do you all have anything else you want to ask of anyone, or? I can't think of any other questions that I have, and I think both sides have done a really great job of answering them and adding insight from both sides.
Well,
I will entertain a motion, however anybody wants to word it. I will certainly entertain a motion.
I make the motion to approve with all variances included.
I have a motion and a second to approve with all variances. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Oh, motion carries. Okay, moving on. Rezonings. City Council has final authority for approval of rezonings. Item A, PD 19-07, RDF 209-D, do I have to read all that? DCTN 3366. Public hearing and consideration of a request for approval of a rezoning from the General Commercial Heavy Commercial CGCH zoning district to a planned development of PD zoning district to allow for uses permitted within the General Commercial zoning district and a shared sign plan for off-site signage on 4.951 acres located 4150 and 4238 Sunset. Mr. Fisher again.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is a Plan Development 1907 for RDF 209 DCTN 3366. It's on 4.951 acres at 4150 and 4238 Sunset Drive. It's a planned development rezoning from CGCH to a PD, District 6, Billy DeWitt in the Sunset neighborhood. The future land use is commercial and the current zoning is CGCH. So the applicant has an existing non-conforming sign. You cannot have an off-site sign in that area off of Sunset Drive. So there was an existing way we used to do these is if you had a non-conforming sign, you could allow an expansion by variance. We no longer allow that. They have to do a PD. So that's what you're seeing today. I'll just skip ahead for a quick minute here. So you're familiar with the former Hastings site. So Mattress Firm, which is located on the property immediately to the south, has been sharing the Hastings sign, and the applicants would like to expand the sign area. In order to do that, they need the PD. So the new sign would be essentially in the same location and would be tied to the same poles as you see here. It would increase from about 175 square feet up to 300 square feet, which is what would be allowed for an off-site sign, as well as increasing the height from about 27.5 feet to 50, which is also would be allowed along that corridor. So basically, that's all we're approving today. The second part of that rezoning would essentially remove the CH portion. We believe this is a predominantly retail, light retail corridor of retail and offices and shopping plazas, and so the heavy commercial would not really fit there. Some of you were here a couple years ago when the Market Street property had did the same thing with Texas Bank. They still haven't put up that sign yet, but they do have an approval for it where Market Street wanted some more visibility and the goal would be to create a shared sign plan. So that's essentially what this is. It's to allow the Mattress Firm Plaza the same. Up until 2008, that was one property, and then it was cut up into 3 pieces, making that sign off-site. So this would basically legalize everything for them to expand. These are some of the other signs in the area, as you can see. So they're roughly within the same sign area and height of those existing signs. This is the existing sign looking east and looking west, and this is the site plan. So the new sign would be parallel to Sunset Drive in the same spot in the same location. It now just be increased to 300 square feet. This is the proposed new sign, so it'd be a little shorter than
Oh,
the
okay.
maximum 50.
That was good.
So you'd have allow up to 3 tenants, and it'll be double-sided as well. Staff is in support of the rezoning for the following reasons. It's consistent with the commercial designation. Given this is a commercial corridor already, you've got Target, Party City, a number of restaurants and retail uses, and eventually you hit them all. Will comply with all the existing underlying CG standards. It's in the same location. There's a number of other freestanding signs I've just showed you. The new sign will allow additional square footage and allow the continued shared signage. There's no environmental effects. The increased sign area, basically we're allowing them to have the increase of what an off-site sign would be, which is 300 square feet, but restricted to 1 freestanding sign across all of the properties. If they want to come back, they could always do an amendment to allow an additional sign, and that would just be to avoid sign clutter. So they want the bigger sign, we're okay with it, but just have less signs along that frontage. 11 notices were mailed. We did not receive any responses. Staff is recommending approval of a rezoning from the General Commercial Heavy Commercial CGCH zoning district to a planned development PD zoning district for uses permitted within the General Commercial CG zoning district and a shared sign plan for off-site signage, subject to the following 5 conditions of approval. Compliance with the CG zoning standard, so that CH would be removed. The sign shall be considered on-site with a maximum of 300 square feet, a maximum of 1 freestanding sign on all the properties. They can maintain the existing landscaping around the sign. If they want to remove that, they would have to install an 8-foot tall masonry or stucco base. We just didn't want to have some of the older signs in town just kind of whacked onto a pole. Doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing, and so they can put a base on it, or they can just maintain the landscaping along the bottom. And no spillover glare of any lighting on any adjacent properties. This concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments?
Really? I don't. Obviously I'm the only one up here that's confused. Yeah, I mean, no surprise. The current sign, right? So you have Mattress Firm in Hastings, right?
Correct.
That sign's not going anywhere, correct?
That's right. My understanding and the applicants here as well is so those 2 poles will stay there.
Right.
But the signage, the sign
Gotcha.
bracket that's on top will be removed
Gotcha.
and replaced
So
with a new
it's
one.
just a flip-flop.
Correct.
Okay.
But because it was a legal non-conforming sign, you can't have off-site signage. As soon as you remove the bracket and replace it again.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand how we got here. I was making sure that another sign wasn't going up elsewhere, because then you said, well, it's at the same spot. So anyway, it's all clicking now.
Sure.
So the Mattress Firm's going on the top with a new sign. The Hastings sign's coming down.
Yes, and I think there'd be flexibility on which tenants would go on
Or
there.
whoever goes on. Yeah, I don't care who goes up there. Okay, I got you.
Okay.
Do I have any public comment? Come on up, please state your name.
My name is Mark Hunter. I represent the landowner here. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of this item this morning. Really, the impetus for wanting the sign change is that we had a number of national level tenants that checked out the space. They really liked the market, really liked that corner. But they all mentioned to us, we got to do something with that sign. It's outdated. It doesn't look great. So the question then becomes, okay, how do we do that? I've had many conversations with Mr. Fisher on, how do we legally do that? And this is kind of what led us here today. We're not changing as far as the zoning, underlying zoning. We really expect this to be retail, restaurant, any of those uses. So really, this is for the sign. Really, we want to have the sign conform to today's standards. So if you have any questions of me, certainly feel free to ask. Thank you.
No, I don't think so. Be glad to see somebody go in that building. Isn't that still empty, Hastings? All right, well, gentlemen, any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Move that we accept as proposed.
A motion to approve and a second to approve as presented. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item B, Wilson, Z19-10. Public hearing and consideration of a request for approval of rezoning from a ranch and estate zoning district and general commercial, heavy commercial to general commercial zoning district on 0.484 acres located at 4744 North Chadbourn. Good morning.
Thank you, Sherry Bailey again. In this case, we have a request to rezone a partial part of the lot, and I'll give you a little more on that in just a minute. We're talking about 0.484 acres at 4744 North Chadbourn. It is the property in the back, the property that's right on Chadbourn is Valley Vending's property. Valley Vending owns the building in the back also. This is in District 2 under Thompson, and it's the Riverside neighborhood. And they're rezoning from CGCH and R&E to general commercial. The neighborhood center is the future land use, and this is in conformance with that intended use. And as you can see, the current zoning, it divides this lot at an angle directly in half. This came about because the rental applicant on the house or the structure on that lot wanted to set up a special event center, a bounce house. And when they came in for their site plan, one of the items that they needed to correct was the fact that we have the dual zoning. And so the property owner has come forward to do that. This is a picture of the Valley Vending property that is on North Chadbourn. The bounce house sign that leads to the back of that property. They are in this building back here, and the line goes directly through the building. And so it became very important that that rezoning occur. And this is the adjacent property to the west, and all the property in that general area is commercial or heavy commercial, but the applicant is asking for only general commercial in this case because it does butt up against some residential properties to the back. The rationale for approval in this case is the comp plan designates this area as neighborhood center. The rezoning to general commercial is consistent with that less intense use. It is consistent with the zoning ordinance, as I indicated. The present lot is divided in half, and it's compatible with the surrounding area. They are going to use the general commercial as a buffer area, but it is still in keeping with what's going on in the neighborhood. The general conditions in the area have remained fairly commercial, although there is some existing residential in the back. We are anticipating that there will be no effects to the environment since the building is already existing. There's no construction that will occur. There is parking that will occur as part of this, but that impact should be very minimal. The interest in this type of venue has been very consistent. The applicant showed us where they've had a lot of concern, and there were already some parties that were scheduled in that building when they came forward because they wanted to do some remodeling. And this zone change will continue the commercial pattern of the general area. We sent out 6 notices. We did not receive anything either in opposition or in favor. And staff is recommending approval to go to the general commercial. Are there any questions?
No, I don't have any. I'll open it up for public comment. Do I have any public comment on this? All right, we'll close public comment. No, I don't have anything. Looks pretty simple. I'll entertain a motion.
I make the motion to approve as proposed.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 4-0. All right. Moving on, item C, Z1911, Centro Cristiano, is it Hosanna? Is that a public hearing in consideration of a request for approval of a rezoning from R&E zoning district to a CG zoning district on 6.109 acres, 5026 Link Road.
Shelley Pascal. This is the location map of the subject property. It is on 6.109 acres, located at 5026 Link Road. It is designated as commercial in the district's Hebert, and it's in the Glenmore neighborhood. This is the future land use and the current zoning of the property. It is, the future land use is calling for it to be commercial, excuse me, and it is currently zoned ranch and estate. This is the subject property, and this is both looking north and south of the subject property. We did send out 7 notifications. We did not receive any in favor nor opposition. Rationale for approval, it is consistent with the being designated as commercial, and it is partially screened, and the lots are consistent with the general commercial standards. In this area, there is a mixture of heavy and general commercial, so it is compatible with the surrounding uses. It is consistent with the future land use and the existing adjacent mixed of use development. Has little to no effect on the environment. It will allow an existing community service to expand and continue, and it is consistent with the adjoining or the development in the area. Staff we do recommend approval of this zone change.
Thank you. All right. No questions for him? Do I have any public comment on this? No public comment? No questions? Gentlemen, I entertain a motion unless you have a question.
Move to approve as presented.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? None. 4-0. All right, moving on to item D, Graves. Z19-12, public hearing, consideration of a request for approval, rezoning from CH, heavy commercial zoning district, to ML, a light industrial zoning district, 5.95 acres located at 6993 and 7005 South Highway US 277. Mr. Fisher.
Morning again, Planning Commissioners. Jeff Fisher, Principal Planner. Z1912 Graves. This is a rezoning request from a CH to an ML, heavy commercial to a light manufacturing zone in District 1, Tommy Hebert in the Country Club neighborhood at 6993 and 7005 South US 277. The future land use is industrial and the current zoning is heavy commercial CH. So the applicant has an existing taxidermy and animal meat processing operation, wants to expand on the property and adding a new smokehouse, and so that triggered a review of current zoning. The CH does not allow those uses, and so the ML, the light manufacturing, would, and allow them to get a building permit in the future for that expansion. So this is the very last property at the end of the city limits as you go south on US 277. As you go north, you have a combination of other heavy commercial and industry ranging from steel and storage units, equipment, things like that. And this is looking south. There's vacant land to the east, and then to the west is the subject property. So staff is recommending approval based on the following. The comprehensive plan is industrial as well, so that would fit the rezoning to an ML would be consistent with our comprehensive plan, which also includes along that corridor other heavy uses such as oil field equipment, heating and cooling, and West Texas Steel. Consistent with the zoning ordinance, the current and the new building, they had given us a site concept plan, which I do have it here. I don't usually include it as part of a rezoning request because that could always change, but it would comply with the ML underlying zoning standards. They will have to put in a privacy fence there's a smaller property immediately to the north that was an existing house that's already been there for a long time. It's the only residential property surrounded by industrial and heavy commercial. So in order to meet the zoning requirement, they will have to put in a privacy fence in that area. And when they expand and get their building permit, they'll need to pave some of that parking area in the front, or they can choose to add parking. There is a caliche parking lot in the front already. Compatible with the surrounding area, the uses have been in existence. I understand Jay's meat processing has been in the community since 2005. It's compatible with the surrounding heavy commercial and industrial nature, staff believes. The CH zoning would not allow the expansion that we've mentioned, so that's the change conditions. We looked at the effect on the natural environment. The applicant had provided us with an email synopsis. Basically, it's a smoke, sausage, and jerky facility that would create some minimal air pollution. I understand from the applicant the way this works is the smoker would go for 5 to 6 minutes or 8 minutes every 5 to 6 hours. And so in between that time, some of the smoke might blow out and would obviously create some minimal smell in the area. Similar to a previous case last month, staff believes the way to deal with that would be through the site plan process. The zoning is consistent, and at the site plan stage, the applicant would provide us with some additional information to indicate that smoker would not cause any negative effects on the surrounding area. And finally, development patterns. There's no anticipated changes. The property fronts onto Highway 277, which is a TxDOT arterial and can easily accommodate the new traffic. 13 notifications were mailed out. We did not receive any in favor or in opposition. So staff recommends approval of the rezoning from the heavy commercial CH zoning district to the light manufacturing ML zoning district. And this concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. Why is heavy commercial not a catch-all?
The meat processing operation, so it allows the storage of heavy equipment and welding and things like that. It doesn't go as far as meat processing. So again, we're not sure exactly when the original use was established. It was sometime around 2005, and so that's probably open for some debate. The taxidermy operation would probably be okay if it was accessory to that use. Its retail sales and service on its own would not be a permitted use, but the meat processing itself and the addition of the smokehouse would require an ML zoning.
So because there's retail involved, it needs to go to light.
No, I'm sorry.
Light industrial, or why couldn't you go heavy industrial, heavy manufacturing, and then it's all inclusive?
Sure. So the taxidermy is not really the issue. The taxidermy, if you have a processing facility and you have some accessory sales, if it was just a taxidermy operation on its own, it would fall under retail sales, which would not be allowed. As long as it's connected to a permitted use, a permitted principal use, and retail is a minor component, it would be allowed. So that's not the issue. The issue is the meat processing and the smokehouse. And with the ML, the processing in the smokehouse would be a permitted use.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, I know where you're going with that, and it's a great point. It seems like it would be an easier process if it was all commingled, but I get why. A quick question, Jeff. The smoking of the meat, the smoke in and of itself, is that an actual? Is that on? Do we actually have something on the books for that?
We don't. It would be a component of meat processing, and so the ML zoning, by allowing the meat processing.
We don't actually care about how much smoke somebody produces when they're making barbecue, right?
If that one house, which is property number 5 here, wasn't there, we probably wouldn't care. We flagged it and we realized that there was a home there. The applicant, that owner has not contacted us. They haven't responded. And again, we understand and we're in support of the application and we're behind the applicant on this, given that this whole area is ML and CH. There's absolutely no residential. I think similar to another case last month, even if there's just one home or there's some residential across the street, to demonstrate to us, and I think the applicant has, that there's not going to be, there'll be very minimal smell and minimal effects, and that I understand they've already been doing this before. They needed a new smokehouse on the property in order to meet USDA requirements, as I understand it. So they're already doing some smoking in the existing buildings. This would just allow them to expand.
Gotcha. I live by the state park, and they do controlled burns, I think, every year. So just making sure that we're not worried about somebody smoking a brisket or a deer or whatever. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Sure.
Just making sure we're not really worried about that, but we're not concerned with the state park. I'm not concerned with any of it, but I think smoke's awesome. I love food.
Who would be affected is the doggy daycare down the road. Dog smelling all that.
Yeah, I can think of a lot of other smells that I'd be concerned with instead of food. But okay, moving on. Do I have any? Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Do I have any public comment on this? No public comment. All right, gentlemen, I will entertain a motion or any discussion that y'all feel like you need to have.
I make the motion to approve as proposed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? None. 4-0. That was great. Okay, moving on to item E, Z19-13, Zetzman/City of San Angelo, a public hearing in consideration of a request for approval, rezoning from single-family residence in RS1 zoning district to the two-family residence RS2 zoning district, 0.482 acres located at 215 and 217 South Washington. Good morning again.
Good morning again, Sherry Bailey. In this case, we have under Z1913 a request that started out because the property owner wanted to do some repair and some rehab to a second structure that is on their lot. The zoning, as we indicated, is RS1 in this area. The property was originally platted in the early 1900s, but around the late 1940s, the early 1950s, this area in particular, with a lot of the older homes and with some larger lots, and the end of World War II, there were a lot of people coming home and they needed places to live. And so there were a number of either small homes built, a second small home built on the lot, or apartments built on the lot. And at that point, there was no problem with that. But when she wanted to do some repair, then our legal non-conforming ordinance did have a problem with that, and so she has come forward to request the RS2. In talking with her and then talking to the property owner immediately to the south, who has the same similar situation, the city asked the property owner to the south if they would also like to rezone. They both have existing second apartments on their property that were built in the late 40s, early 50s. So this is located at the northwest of the intersection of South Washington Street and West Tuig, and I'm sure you're familiar with that area. There's a number of historic and old beautiful homes in the area, and everybody takes care of the property in the area. They are requesting rezoning from RS1 to RS2, which would allow the two structures on the property. This is in District 5 with Lane as the representative, and it's in the Santa Rita neighborhood. The future land use has this as neighborhood. This is consistent with that use. And as I indicated, the zoning is RS1. But as you can see, directly to the west is RM1, which it does allow 2 and 3 structures on a lot. The reason for doing that was exactly what this request is. And then if you go to this area and this area, you will see that RS2 is very close to the area, and for exactly the same reason, that there are existing structures. And I want to stress the fact, pardon? Oh, I want to stress the fact that all of these are existing structures. Nobody is coming in with any new structure. This is a picture. The property here is the first property that came in, 215-217. And if you look right here, you'll see where the second structure is attached to the house as a smaller apartment that was in need of some repair and remodeling. And then the second property listed at 219 South Washington. If you come to the rear of their property, you will see that there's a really nice apartment that was built many, many years ago in the early 50s that also is existing. This is consistent with the existing comprehensive plan, which has the designation of neighborhoods, so single family and 2-family both fit in there. As we indicated, both apartments were constructed in the 40s and 50s when joint use was allowed. And this area is part of the older neighborhood of San Angelo. The homes there were built in the early 1900s, as I indicated, many with apartments, and yet they are not adding to what's already existed. The rezoning is similar, as I showed you, to what has gone on in the neighborhood. We are not anticipating any negative environmental effects, and the property has been used consistently as a rental property for many years. And this area is close to the downtown area, services and employment, and it is still an active and vital neighborhood. We sent out, in this case, we oversent on purpose. We sent 63 notices. At the time that we did this, we had 1 in favor and 4 in opposition, and there was another one that came in, and I put it in front of you. And most of the comments were concerned about adding new to the neighborhood. They do not want to add anything new to the neighborhood. They're concerned about some of the rentals they feel have people who are very transient or not good neighbors, are partying, are college students, etc. But if you look closely at most of those who sent in opposition, all but one of them also has a second rental on their property. Staff is recommending that the property be rezoned from RS1 to R2 in order to make it a legal conforming piece of property. Are there any questions?
I don't have any. Do y'all have any questions?
No.
Do I have any public comment on this? Good morning. Please state your name, please.
Excuse me. Good morning. My name's Amy Zetzman. I'm the owner of 215 and 217 South Washington, and I'm just here to answer any questions that Ms. Bailey maybe didn't cover. But it sounds like y'all didn't have
Yeah,
any.
I don't think anybody has any, but thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Anyone else? Good morning.
Good morning. Sarah Anderson. I am the owner of 214 South Bishop. I think it's number 2. I received a letter. I didn't respond, but I'm in support of the zoning change.
Do I have any further public comment? Do y'all have any questions or concerns with this?
No.
I will entertain a motion.
I make the motion to approve as proposed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 4-0. All right, moving on, item F, Z19-14, City of San Angelo, public hearing and consideration of request for approval of a rezoning from the general commercial, heavy commercial, neighborhood commercial, office commercial, and low-rise multifamily residential zoning districts to the central business district on approximately 80 acres of generally located north of the Concho River, south of West Harris Avenue, east of Santa Fe Park Drive, and west of South Randolph Street. Good luck finding that. Can't get any better directions than that. Ms. Bucher.
All right, good morning. Hillary Bucher, Planning Manager. We are looking at 80 acres, quite a large chunk of land here. We are, again, north of the Concho River, so that would be this general direction, south of West Harris, east of Santa Fe Park Road, and west of South Randolph Street. So again, kind of a large area. We are requesting a rezoning from the general commercial, heavy commercial, neighborhood commercial, office commercial, and low-rise multifamily to the central business district. This is in SMD3, Harry Thomas's district in the downtown neighborhood. So this was actually initiated by staff. We have a couple of things that have come up here recently which would have benefited from this zone change. This is, we'll go to the next slide, actually in the future land use plan designated as downtown. So again, we're matching up with the future land use plan. It would have benefited a couple of properties, and from the people we've spoken to, we've gotten a lot of support for this. So again, you can see it's a very mixed zoning area. You have a lot of different zonings. They will all now be they will be zoned central business district. So this is a list, a kind of abbreviated use table that was included in your packet. Again, it mostly allows things that are currently allowed, or it allows things that even aren't currently allowed. There are some that would not be allowed. So I've highlighted those. They would either take an extra step or not be allowed. A lot of them I don't know that they would fit in the downtown area, but I've highlighted them for your reference. Campground, recreational vehicle park, rental equipment, so somebody that was trying to do like a skid steer rental or something like that, that would not be allowed without a conditional use. Vehicle repair, that's somewhere where you drop your car off and leave it, they service it, maybe a transmission shop, something like that. Industrial service, light manufacturing, animal kennels, horse boarding, plant nurseries, and then it gives some additional specifications to the light manufacturing. So again, staff didn't believe these were uses that would probably fit in the downtown or in this area anyways. This other table was actually the development standards, again, trying to abbreviate it as best I could so we could look at some of it. The real point to point out here is that the CBD is exempt from front yard standards. So you think about some of the buildings in that area, they already at the zero lot line from when they were built, who knows, in the 1900s. This would allow development consistent with that. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples why we thought it was a great idea. The CBD does not currently have to meet parking standards. This could actually save some of our historic landscapes and some of these older homes in this area. So I gave you two examples here. This building serves as an office, so they had to pave their entire lawn, whereas we could have something like this that looks more of like a natural landscape for this area. So we think that was a great benefit, not having to pave over these historic front yards. And again, we talked about building setbacks. You can see a lot of these buildings were built along the property lines, even here along Beauregard. This would allow any future development to be able to match up with those, giving us a more urban look. So we thought those were two really good aspects of this. So staff is recommending approval. The comp plan designates this area as downtown, so the CBD zoning would be in keeping with that. The reduced standards would allow redevelopment and expansion that would be in line with what's already there. It would also allow non-conforming structures to maybe become conforming, so that's a really plus of this. The mixed-use area with residential and commercial uses, so this would allow the mixed use to continue. Again, CBD allows household living by right, so it could be an office and a living quarters. It's been identified as downtown since 2009. We don't believe that it has any adverse impacts on the natural environment. It would reflect the need for the continuing of the diverse uses. So we have many people who want to use places for mixed use, so this would allow it in that area. and the requested zone change would continue the use patterns. So we mailed out 107 notices. We have received 4 in favor and 1 in opposition. Just so that you know as well, Jeff and I have spoken to probably 30 people total on the phone without any opposition. So at this point, we have 4 in writing and 1 in opposition in writing, but we've spoken to quite a few of these people. Everyone seems to be very excited about the possibility of the revitalization and reuse of some of these buildings that are currently vacant. Staff is recommending approval of the rezoning from the general commercial, heavy commercial, neighborhood commercial, office commercial, and low-rise multifamily residential to the central business district. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
Could you go back 4 or 5 where it shows the house with
Yes, sir.
that? So you don't like the front yard that's been converted to an office?
Well, they could still do that. They just would not be required to do that.
It wouldn't be required to put in a parking.
That's correct. In the central business district, there is no parking standards for each building. You think about a lot of the downtown buildings, a lot of them just have on-street parking. Again, people would be allowed to park on the street. You can see several vehicles here. They still have the option to do parking lot if they choose, but with a landscape architecture background, if we could preserve some of those historic places, I think that's a great benefit to the city.
Another question I have, what if it were Firestone? Like there's a Firestone down?
Yes, sir.
So what?
So that's the one business that we think could be non-conforming, although they have, since they've been there before 2000, the zoning ordinance allows that if the zone is changed, but the use was there before 2000, they are basically considered a lawful conditional use.
Did that convey with the property?
Yes, sir. Yes. And again, even if someone wanted to come in with vehicle repair, they could. They would just have to seek a conditional use, which again is just in front of the Planning Commission for 1 meeting, so it's about a month process. So there are those options for vehicle repair. I think rental equipment is also a conditional use, although some of those uses weren't allowed by any means. We have also spoken to downtown San Angelo. I think Dell's in the audience here, so he was in support of this as well. If anyone has any questions, he can probably speak to those as well.
So Dell, you're in favor of this?
Yeah, I'll open it up for public comment. Come on up, please state your name.
Yes, the short answer is yes. I think in the long run, it's going to help with the development of what we're trying to accomplish in downtown. My only concern, and we discussed it at our meeting, was that if you look at the boundaries of the Main Street program, which we're advocates for and represent in San Angelo, the boundaries are much larger than Central Business District. And so this will incorporate within those boundaries and will help, and I know the city staff will continue to look at the other areas within the Main Street boundaries that would accommodate these types of zone changes. So yes, in the short answer, yes.
Just like Dell spoke to, the future land use downtown is actually a very large area, and there's multiple zoning districts in it. So we, as staff, plan to kind of step by step take on different areas of the downtown to look at potential rezoning. So we hope to really match up our CBD zoning with our downtown future land use in the near future as we go in these steps.
Do I have any other public comment? Anybody want to speak on this case? Gentlemen, do you have any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I make the motion to approve as proposed.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 4-0. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, moving on to conditional uses. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. Item A, CU 19-11 Odom. Public hearing and consideration of a request for approval of a conditional use to allow single-family dwelling with a single family within a single-family residence Zoning district to, RS1 zoning district to be used as a short-term rental, 0.26 acres, located at 2330 Fisherman's Road. Good morning, you're up.
I'm up again. Conditional use 19-11 Odom. This is, as you indicated, a conditional use to allow a short-term rental. This is a new short-term rental. The property owner actually lives about 6 houses from this house. The property came up for sale. He and his brother purchased the property with the intent to make it a short-term rental. It's on 0.26 acres. It's at 2330 Fisherman's Road. It's in District 1, Hebert, and it's in the Nasworthy neighborhood. In the future, land use has this area as neighborhood. The short-term rental use of a single-family home as a rental is consistent with that. And the present zoning is single-family residence, RS1. This is the piece of property. You can see that at the time this was owned by an elderly couple. They had parking off to the side and parking in front of the garage. If you look at the picture to the right, you'll see that that property, the applicant, when he purchased it, is cleaning it out, is removing the stuff that was left in the building, is going to be doing repair to both the inside and the outside and cleaning up the area. And the parking where this truck is will be enhanced for parking for the short-term rental. This is another picture showing that there is a privacy fence between this property and the property to what I would consider to the right or to the west. And this is another picture of the property. In this case, this is a very small home. Although it says 3 bedrooms, it is just at 1,300 square feet for the size of the home. So it will only handle a small family or a small number of people on a short-term rental. We feel the home will maintain the single-family residential look and feel of the property, and we believe that it is consistent with the low-density use of that area. We don't anticipate any additional natural effects to the natural environment. The target market in this case includes military families and young professionals who come in for a weekend. And this has been demonstrated consistently about the interest into the area. We sent out 8 notices. 1 came back in favor, 2 came back in opposition, and you will notice that there is another one that I put in front of you. The property owner to number 7, actually, when he sent out his opposition, if you take a look at what I laid in front of you, his opposition dealt mainly with the property number 8, which he said is an existing short-term rental. It is not a legal short-term rental, and we thanked him very much for letting us know when we are proceeding on contacting that property. As you know, if you, one of the conditions is if you have a short-term, legal short-term rental in an area, an approved short-term rental, there cannot be another one within 500 feet. The property owner to the west, number 3, when he presented me with his opposition, did not give me any backup, and he did not list anything on there other than he was objecting to the idea of a short-term rental. Ugh. I obviously missed that. But We are asking that you approve the short-term rental, and that there are 3 conditions: that the property owner maintain the short-term rental as indicated in section 406 and 511 of the zoning ordinance. They will be required to renew the short-term rental in 1 year, and the fire marshal and building inspector will have to go out on an inspection to make sure that it meets the requirements of our ordinance. And I apologize for that, I missed that. But the short-term rental, we have a lot of interest in that area, and as you're aware, because of the lake. So staff is recommending approval.
I thought all this was addressed a couple of years ago. What, with the Lake Nasworthy Homeowners Association? What was all that about?
It is. So that was when it was being decided whether or not we were going to allow them, period. So that has since passed. And now all we do is approve the conditional use.
Conditional use.
They have to understand that it conforms to the rules that the council set. So we're not here to argue whether an SDR is good or bad. We're here to say, does this meet the criteria that the council voted on? If it does, it moves forward, and these people get to go and do whatever they'd like to do.
Okay.
How often does that have to be renewed?
There's a renewal after 1 year, and then after that, it's every 2 years.
All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Y'all have any questions for staff? No? Do I have any public comment on this case? No public comment.
Well,
Y'all, did that answer your question?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, we just make sure that it conforms to the criteria that council voted on 2 years ago, and if it does, then, you know, we don't really make our decisions based on if somebody is against them or not. It just, does this conform? So, anyway, I'll entertain a motion if anybody wants to make one.
Move approval as presented.
Motion to approve?
A second.
And I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 4-0. Moving on to the director's report. John?
Don't really have much for you to add, but just in case you all get questions, a number of city boards and commissions are moving from this room over to what we call the East Mezzanine in City Hall. The Planning Commission will remain in this room, as will City Council, but many of the other city boards and commissions will be moving. So again, in case you get questions or hear about that.
Okay, so future meeting is tentatively scheduled for 9 a.m., August the 19th, and it will be right here. Anything else? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.